Hello, welcome to Who Wore Better, and holy crap folks, what a week it's been since the last episode of Who Wore Better. So much has gone on in the days since last week's show. Let's get right into the big story that dropped on Tuesday. It was announced that WWE has officially cleared Daniel Bryan to return to in-ring action for the first time in 3 years. Yes, he did retire 2 years ago officially, but he was taken out of the ring shortly after WrestleMania 31, so it's been pretty much 3 years. Wow, this is crazy. I love this news. Daniel is such a great performer and a great entertainer, great character. For someone who loves the business as much as Daniel does, it was heartbreaking to see him basically be forced out of wrestling, being forced into retirement like he was 2 years ago. That was heart-wrenching stuff to see him walk away like that, and for him to still be involved, had to be eating him alive, to be indirectly involved, but not actually doing in-ring stuff. So now the fact that he has his case looked at again, apparently, and now he's hunky-dory good to go, because he'd been cleared by other doctors for a long time before this new development here, but now it seems that WWE's looked at the case again and they've allowed Daniel to return, which is great. There are a lot of great potential matchups now that are on the table now that Daniel is back in action. Off the top of my head, guys like Shinsegae Nakamura, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar, The Miz. Let's get this Miz Daniel Bryan match that's been like years in the making. Let's get that happening, please. The list goes on, and I am just so excited to see where this return will take him now. I wonder how long the company was sitting on this information before the announcement, because the timing seems so coincidental with how close it is to WrestleMania and just 1 week after Shane McMahon was taken off TV getting beat up by Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Almost nothing in this company has ever a happy coincidence. So again, why they waited until Tuesday, the day of SmackDown, to make this announcement, makes me wonder how long they knew about this, what they knew, and how long they knew it, essentially. There is also a natural worry, not just with me, but also I'm sure with many other fans, that Daniel might be possibly putting his health on the line by getting back in the ring, doing something to re-aggravate his brain injuries, because he works an intense style that also helped contribute to his injured state, which led him to retirement. So what will he do to change up his style and avoid further injury? Hopefully. Time will tell. I'm curious to see where they go with this and how he can modify his style. We've got a little bit of a glimpse of that, I feel, on SmackDown on Tuesday. But in short, this news is great. Anyway, let's move on to what happened on Raw on Monday. Kurt Angle opens the show. He starts talking about Braun Strowman's situation with the tag title match at Mania. Suddenly, out with no fanfare, no music, out comes Roman Reigns. He's still under suspension, which technically means he's trespassing as he enters through the crowd. Kurt Angle repeatedly warns him to just get out of the situation here, but Roman doesn't care about the suspension. He wants a piece of Brock. Kurt says he's running late. Then out come the U.S. Marshals to arrest Roman. They handcuff him. The U.S. Marshals, they're local workers in fancy vests. They handcuff Roman, and he proceeds to assault all three of them while he's handcuffed, and that lands him about 5 to 10 years in jail automatically on the spot, I would assume. Out comes Brock Lesnar to take advantage of a handcuffed Roman Reigns. Suplexes, chair shots, suplexes. It's a good thing Roman is handcuffed in the front, because those bumps sure would be hard to take if he was handcuffed from behind. I loved Michael Cole's call this spot. He says it's an iniquitous attack by Lesnar. I had to look it up. Iniquitous means wicked or sinful. That's quite an SAT word, Cole. And I always credit WWE, like Jim Ross especially, his commentary when I was a young kid, like watching that stuff. That really helped expand my vocabulary and terminology at a young age. But I think even that word is just too much for me. Anyway, Roman is starting to get stretchered out. Then Lesnar comes back out. He knocks the stretcher over after a couple of tries. He pushes it once and it just wheels over a little bit. Then he just tips it over again. And that's pretty much the whole end of the segment there. So what did we learn? Suspensions mean nothing. You can attack U.S. Marshals and get away with it. And then knocking over a stretcher is kind of hard work, even if you're Brock Lesnar. This segment was obviously meant to build more babyface sympathy for Roman, because he's being taken advantage of. He's getting assaulted while he's in handcuffs and everything. I think Roman, he had a good thing going in the last couple of weeks, complaining about Brock Lesnar and his lack of dedication and commitment and respect and whatever. That was working when it was in a bubble. But then when he does the same kind of rant here, and then Lesnar actually comes out to a much larger pop than Roman Reigns, maybe he didn't quite accomplish. We still have a ways to go here. Was the goal was to make him more of a babyface, make him more sympathetic. I'd say they were about 50% there. They were almost there with this one. It was not a great segment in the grand scheme of things. It did not do a good job in building more sympathy for him. They were on the right track, but I feel like it's just one of those things where no matter what they do, the fans aren't going to side on a full-time basis with Roman. Our first match is Alexa Bliss versus Osku in a rematch from earlier this year. Before the match, though, Alexa is on the microphone and cuts another one of her classic, sounds genuine at first, but then turns it around and sounds bitchy promo. She's been doing it. That's kind of her thing now. She does not feel bad for her comments or what she said about Nia. She doesn't feel bad for using Nia. She feels like a weight has been lifted off her shoulders now that the truth has come out. This match here with Osku didn't quite feel as good as the last one they had back in January. Things just felt a little off at times. Osku puts Alexa in the ankle lock, and she grabs the ropes, she escapes, she gets out of the ring and just runs away. That's kind of the match ends. Ends in a count-out victory for Osku, and then immediately afterward, Nia Jax does come out. She storms the ring, chases after Alexa. She lays out Mickie James like twice. She just like bowls over her, then she throws her head first into the LED apron to run after Alexa Bliss and chases her off there. So Alexa's visibly shaken, no longer confident and cocky like she was at the top of this segment, running Nia down there. We find out after the break that Curtis make the match for WrestleMania, Alexa versus Nia for the Raw Women's Championship, which I'm looking forward to. This seems to be the natural progression of things. Alexa definitely seems to have the fear of God put in her after what happened before the commercial here. I am curious to see where this goes. I did like Nia's fire and her aggression here, taking out Mickie James and her pursuit of Alexa Bliss here. Braun Strowman comes out to address the tag title situation. He's been told he must find a partner in order to challenge Cesaro and Sheamus for the titles at WrestleMania. Before he can really divulge more about who he thinks should be his partner, the Bar does come out to interrupt. He says, in order to be a team, you need to have chemistry. And Cesaro basically walks into a line about tag partners sleeping together, which gets a pretty good chuckle out of me. And then it turns into a situation where Braun says, well, I get to have a match with either one of you, so who's it going to be? Sheamus throws Cesaro under the bus, and they have a match here. Strowman deflects a lot of Cesaro's offense, but it's definitely not a cakewalk. Cesaro's definitely giving Strowman a run for his money in this matchup. Strowman chases Cesaro around the ring, lays out Sheamus, hits Cesaro with a power slam after catching him in midair to win the match. Nothing really developed in terms of finding a partner. I'm still holding out hope for Elias will be the partner to join Braun Strowman here. Until then, hit it. Braun Strowman, Strowman hates Swiss Superman. They have a fight, Strowman wins, Braun Strowman. Up next, the Revival make quick work of Titus O'Neil and Apollo. Then after the match, they cut a promo in the ring saying they're the most qualified tag team to win the Raw tag titles. That's kind of a rich statement considering that last week a dude single-handedly beat the two of you in a battle royal. Then they say they're going to be the first tag team to simultaneously win the Honor the Giant battle royal. Then Wilder's last words in the promo are, yeah. And then they play the music. That was a great exclamation point on the promo there. And I guess that seems to be the great. I guess that confirms that this match is happening now, because after they announced the Women's Battle Royal last week, there seemed to be some confusion and doubt that the Andre Battle Royal was going to be happening at the show as well. And I guess now that I've mentioned it, we might as well bring it up here. The other big news of the last 7 days. Last week, the company finally changed the name of the Fabulous Moolah Memorial Battle Royal to the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal after tons and tons of fan backlash. As I mentioned before last week on this show, fans made their voices heard to Snickers, which is the parent or the title sponsor for WrestleMania. So Snickers/Mars contacted WWE about it, and then since money talks, obviously the name was changed. This is really kind of unprecedented because we know that WWE rarely, if ever, backpedals on something, even if it is like in poor taste or if it's a negative press. So for them to change the name like this is kind of a big deal, I think. So good on them for doing it, even though it wasn't like out of the goodness of their hearts. I think it was because the sponsor talked. That's basically how it was. Some people are still upset that they didn't change the name of it to the Sensational Sherry Battle Royal or the Miss Elizabeth Battle Royal. Like, yeah, it would have been nice to have it named after somebody who's a little more honorable, but let's not push our luck. Let's just take our win that we can get it and just be glad that they're not glorifying the Fabulous Moolah in this case. Speaking of Hall of Famers, here's one you can be proud of. They announced this week that Mark Henry is the latest inductee into the Hall of Fame, really rounding out this Attitude Era themed class with some notable exceptions there. Based on just pure longevity alone, I think he deserves the Hall of Fame induction. It's like he's never been like my favorite guy, and I think out of all the super heavyweights, like he in my opinion, never one of like the most skilled, but like he always had a great look, and I think he always had a great presence about him, even though he wasn't, that sound in the ring at times, especially the first few years are brutal watching Mark Henry matches, but he definitely got better over time, and I think his sexual chocolate character was a very memorable one for me growing up. That was kind of like one of my first exposures to him. I started watching just before he started doing Sexual Chocolate. He was like in the middle of doing the whole nation thing at the time. So yeah, he's definitely gone through a lot of changes, a lot of like pushes that got stopped due to injury, unfortunately, but he did have some main event runs. He was the World Heavyweight Champion. He was an ECW champion. This is, yeah, again, I think he's done a lot. He's a very loyal member of the company. Again, been there for a very, very long time. Again, who would have thought that Mark Henry, if you were watching like 2000 and you were watching Mark Henry, who would have thought he'd still be around in 2018 and getting nominated and getting inducted into the Hall of Fame? Crazy times, but yeah, he definitely deserves it. He sounds like just one of the best people in the world. So he sounds like he's got good character and, again, loyalty and strong character that gets him in the Hall of Fame. And I think it sounds like he's been a great ambassador for the company. So truly someone who deserves it. Before our next match, we get a bit of a confrontation between Bayley and Sasha Banks in the ring. Sasha tells Bayley that what she did at the Rumble and the Elimination Chamber was competitive, it was business, it was just trying to win, and that what Bayley did the last few weeks to her was simply petty and unnecessary. But Bayley counters by saying it wasn't just what you did at the Chamber, it wasn't just the act of kicking me off the pod, it was the look on her face, the smirk and the smile, the body language that ate away at Bayley these last few weeks. And she asks, why did you do that? Why do you have that smile? But then all of a sudden Absolution interrupt, and the match is on. I think both women actually made pretty good points in this little debate. It was a good match between the two teams. I really enjoyed the growing frustration and lack of cohesion between Sasha and Bayley affecting the match. I thought it was a good story. They argue some more. Sonya shoves Bayley into Sasha. She kicks Bayley in the head to win the match. And now it sounds like both those women are going to be in the Women's Battle Royal as well, instead of having their own proper singles blow-off match, you know, for the title or not for the title. It's disappointing that they're not doing that at WrestleMania. That seemed to be the natural progression of things, but now there's going to be in the Battle Royal and more of that conflict will be happening there, I'm sure. Maybe the blow-off is going to be at Payback or Extreme Rules or whatever the next Raw pay-per-view is, or I guess they're not doing the single brand pay-per-views anymore. It's going to be the one after Mania, probably. John Cena comes out and continues to run down The Undertaker. He says that The Undertaker has not given him an answer about a WrestleMania match yet, and he feels disrespected. But it's not disrespectful just to him, but also to each and every one of you. That classic McMahonism there. He calls the fans the ones who turn an oversized mortician into a god. He calls The Undertaker a coward and asks to prove him wrong, to do something. Bring out a casket, make some smoke, do something. A do something chant actually emanates after Cena keeps saying that. Then out comes Kane. And the last time we saw him, he was murdered to death by Braun Strowman after being crushed by the stage. So it's kind of surprising to see him show up here. Kane chokeslams Cena. So was that a yes or was it a no? Cole asks, or was that Kane stepping up to challenge Cena at Mania? God, I hope not. But they are fighting next week on Raw, so there's that. Well, it may not be Festivus, but The Miz is out there airing his grievances. He says he's upset that he gets no respect. He's not even shown on the front cover of the WWE magazine, even though he's the best Intercontinental Champion in history. He calls Seth Rollins Tyler Black, and he calls Finn Balor Prince Nevitt. Ooh, so close. A for effort, though. Then Anderson and Gallows and Balor interrupt. We have a six-man tag team match. Miz and the Miztourage versus the Balor Club. Rollins joins commentary as the match goes on. A good little match that focused more on like Balor and Miz than anyone else, really. The other four members were kind of afterthoughts. Balor wins after pinning the Miz. The Miztourage, the beatdown after the match, and Rollins audibly mulls it over. He's like, I don't know. Then he runs to the ring and makes the save. He says, you owe me to Finn Balor, and I'm sure he'll make it up to you soon, Seth. I'm sure he will. It's the main event time. It's the ultimate deletion. Hell yes, I'm ready. Let's do this. The whole thing opens up with Bray entering the compound to a piano rendition of his theme. That was a really cool touch. They fight in the ring. Vanguard 1 initiates the Boomstock Protocol, aka the fireworks, which completely confuse and bewilder Bray. They start fighting out to a shed, and then Matt's all like, doesn't this look somewhat familiar to the shed you also lived in that looks nothing at all like this? And like there's the flashbacks of Orton having burned down the Wyatt house. There's this one point where they go to the forest of dilapidated men where all those wooden cutouts are, and the shot of all the Brays running around trying to chase Matt was one of the best shots I've ever seen in WWE television in history. You see Matt's like, ooh, like he's not gonna catch me. That was an amazing shot there. They enter the big warehouse, and before they enter the warehouse, Bray's like, what's behind door number 1? Very odd to hear Bray Wyatt make a game show reference. I didn't know he was a big fan of Let's Make a Deal. They enter the warehouse, and then Matt's like, chair of wheels, mower of lawn. Chair of wheels, mower of lawn. Ketchup, catsup. Ketchup, catsup. He tries to run over Bray with a damned lawnmower. that was insane. I mean, he went at a snail's pace in the way they shot it. There's no way he's gonna hit him, but it's like, that was like pretty weird to see him like basically threaten to run over Bray with it. At the end of the match, they fight their way down to the Lake of Reincarnation. Their scars guard the dilapidated boat. Bray lifts it up and Senor Benjamin appears underneath. He's holding a globe in his hands. He tosses it up to Bray. He starts singing, Got the Whole World in His Hands. Then all of a sudden, Jeff Hardy shows up and startles Bray. And he's got the contacts, he's got the broken Jeff look and everything. That was a huge shock to me. As it startles Bray, twist of fate, Matt wins the match. He tosses him into the Lake of Reincarnation and Bray disappears. It doesn't end on like a cliffhanger. It doesn't end on like Bray comes back like more spooky than ever or whatever. No, it's just done. It's done. Finish, fade to black, delete, 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 and that was it. So was it as good as the original? No. I think that in no way does it does not capture the same feeling as it once did when I watched, Final Deletion for the first time on Impact. No, but I still found it very amusing, very entertaining. I thought it was a great send-up of what Impact had done. It was basically the same thing. Like, here's the thing. Here's how powerful this creation of Matt Hardy's was. It's that WWE took this exact same concept that Impact did, copied it whole cloth, and like did all the same bits and had like zero shame about doing it. They knew that we knew they were copying it and did not care. And that's how powerful this was, I think, for Matt Hardy to have this kind of like creation that is so popular and different. I think that's amazing for any worker, really. There's more things to take away from this. First off, like, I guess this is just it for Bray now, right? Like, after a conclusion like that, there's no possible way Bray can come back like in a week or two and just act like nothing happened. Like, that's got to be it for his character, or it's got to be some huge amount of time off or a drastic repackaging. I have no idea. Really, the possibilities are kind of endless. Like, it could be like a woken Bray, or it could be converted to someone a little more toned down or something, or maybe his sister Abigail. Who knows? But like, that was weird. I think the fact that like he was just gone, he disappeared, and no Husky Harris. I think that would have been a bit of jumping the shark if he came out of the lake as Husky Harris. But yeah, that's kind of a huge way to basically kill off a character essentially. Next, I wonder where Jeff Hardy stands with the company after his DWI arrest. Like, was all this shot in the can before he was arrested, or are they forgiving it or keeping it in for the shock value they knew it would get because he was arrested and then maybe punishing him later? I don't read the dirt sheet, so I don't really know what his standing in the I know he's cleared to return, but I don't know what his like standing in the company is as far as like, is he suspended or not for the DWI. Also, it's kind of amazing to have an episode of Raw ever end on something so wild and insane and cuckoo as this. Not to mention, I think this has to be the first ever like pre-recorded, out in the field, on location main event ever in WWE history. Now, we've seen some of those before, like the New Day and the Wyatts fighting in the compound. We saw Randy and Bray fight last year in the House of Horrors, whatever the hell it was called, match. And those are mid-card things. They were never in the main event. This has to be the first one I can think of that closed out a show. So that was historical in that way as well. The one negative thing I found from watching the Ultimate Deletion, in my opinion, was if you want to really appreciate and enjoy what happened on Monday, you have to have seen all the stuff they did on Impact with it in order to really understand it. Because if this is your first experience watching what happened here in the Hardy compound with Matt Hardy, you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea why he's talking to a giraffe or a boat or a drone, what the fireworks is all about, all these different props and things and these characters happening. All that's explained on Impact. Because if you watch this for the first time, everything's a mystery to you. And even if you watch all the stuff, it's still a mystery, but at least you get some kind of context to everything. That was my one nitpick about this, is that context is a huge thing. It's not like one of those things where you don't have to see the earlier installments in order to get an appreciation for what happens here. I heard it was cut entirely from the Hulu version, which is kind of unfortunate. Maybe it's like, I can't imagine what they kept in favor of the Ultimate Deletion, honestly. I know Michael Cole tried to downplay it as they were tossing to the package. That's kind of like Vince's voice coming out through Michael Cole. But here's the thing. If they really didn't want to do this match, then they really wouldn't have done it. They had the right, they had the power to just not do this at all and not do the Woken gimmick at all. But they did because they knew it was going to be interesting and get people talking. Even if Vince might not be 100% on board with it, I know a lot of other people are fans of this, like myself included. I'm sure there's people in the company who love this stuff and wanted to see it done on their stage, and I think that really worked in that respect. Again, this is totally a movement that belongs to Matt. The fact that Impact did this and then WWE did the exact same thing, that speaks volumes to me. Now, before I move on to SmackDown, we all know that Paul Heyman's going to be in Brock Lesnar's corner for WrestleMania 34 at the Superdome. But if you're going to be in New Orleans for Mania weekend, you could also find him at the Joy Theater in downtown New Orleans Thursday night, April 5th, as Inside the Ropes presents An Evening with Paul Heyman. It'll be Inside the Ropes' first ever live show in the U.S. with one of the most renowned minds in all of wrestling. He's going to talk about his time in ECW, WCW, his first run in the WWF, his current run as the advocate of Brock Lesnar, and so much more. And hey, how about the exclusive meet and greets before and after the show? Now, Heyman never does these kind of speaking events, so if you're in New Orleans, you owe it to yourself to see this event live. For tickets and information, check out the link at the top of the description of this video. SmackDown begins riding on the momentum of the big news from Tuesday that Daniel Bryan is back, cleared for in-ring competition. He delivers a heartfelt, passionate speech in the ring that really tugs at the heartstrings, talks about his depression and his fight to get back into the ring the last couple of years and how his wife Brie supported him all the way. He says he does not know if he'll fight at WrestleMania yet, but he is coming back to the ring. A great way to open the show, and the fans were 100% into this, and suddenly now Daniel Bryan is once again the most over thing in the company. Our first match tonight is Shinsegae Nakamura taking on Rusev. AJ Styles, the champion, is sitting at ringside watching the match but not on commentary. Shinsegae wins with a roll-up after a series of counters between the two guys. Rusev and Aiden beat up on Shinsegae after the match, and then AJ gets up because he wants to maybe save Shinsegae, kind of like what Shinsegae did for him last week on SmackDown, but then Shinsegae takes care of it all by himself, single-handedly eliminates both of his threats, and makes Shinsegae look very strong, and it's also possibly done to help protect Styles, who is reportedly injured, so they're taking it easy on him. I really hope that he's okay to fight at WrestleMania, and poor Rusev. Up next, Baron Corbin takes on Ty Dillinger. The match ends kind of sloppy when Corbin goes for an end of days and then they just somehow screw it up. Like Ty just kind of falls down like his head's being cradled by Corbin for a second. Corbin recovers by tossing him out of the ring, back into the ring, hits the end of days proper to win the match. No entrance, no victory, Ty? Maybe you need a no entrance, no victory T. We get Charlotte Flair versus Natalya in a non-title match. A really good match between these two. Another great installment of their rivalry that's been going on for years now. They really beat the hell out of each other here. The match ends in a double down. Then Carmella runs in with the briefcase. She's trying to cash it in, but Charlotte takes her out before the bell rings for a new match. Natalya with the roll-up for the upset win. So Charlotte is visibly pissed at being kind of bested by Natalya in this way. But yeah, good stuff here. Doesn't hurt Charlotte in the least, in my opinion, and it really helps Natalya build her up for whatever. I guess she's going to be in the Women's Battle Royal as well. In what I'm pretty sure is the first singles match for a Bludgeon Brothers member on TV since the two were repackaged, we have Harper taking on Jimmy Uso, one half of the tag team championship duo known as the Usos. Harper wins with a discus elbow to Jimmy. Greg Hamilton calls him Luke Harper at the end, which I'm pretty sure it's technically correct, but they're not calling him by first names here, guys. Jinder Mahal's been added to the US Championship match at Mania, making it a triple threat match. He's in the ring cutting a promo, and the theme of this promo, folks, is respect. Basically, he says he demands respect from the audience. Out comes Bobby Roode saying, "You don't have my respect." Then Randy Orton comes out saying, "You don't get no respect." And then they have a bit of a standoff. They're getting ready to fight, but then Jinder tosses Sunil to the wolves and bails out of the ring. Sunil eats a glorious DDT, and then Orton almost gets one of his own from Bobby Roode, but then he slips out. He almost gives an RKO to Roode, but Roode blocks it. They have a bit of a standoff between Orton and Roode, and Jinder's kind of in there, kind of laughing at the whole thing. That was kind of, as brief as it was, I do think it was a pretty strong segment for all three guys here, showing more of that tension and unease between Orton and Roode, who are both baby faces, but they have a common enemy in Jinder, who just wants to watch the world burn. Our final match of the night is Becky Lynch and Naomi taking on Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan of the Riot Squad. Logan with those unfortunate shorts once again that I mentioned in the Royal Rumble review. She taps out to the disarmer in a pretty quick match, and that's pretty much it. It's just more momentum for the baby faces going into the Women's Battle Royal, and that's pretty much all there is to it. The show ends with Daniel Bryan back in the ring, calling out Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for what they did to Shane McMahon last week. Kevin and Sami are extremely happy to see Daniel announcing he's back into the ring, and he's happy that he's there and Shane is gone, so they're going to all be friends now, because really Daniel was the one ally that they had in this entire debacle since Hell in a Cell. But instead, Daniel admonishes them for what happened last week, for beating up Shane after, one, announcing he's leaving, and two, giving them a WrestleMania matchup. And so he reluctantly fires Kevin and Sami for their actions for going too far last week. They shake hands and start to walk away, but then Kevin turns around and decks Daniel, lays him out. Sami with some punches, but then Daniel fights back, and the crowd goes banana for this. It is just a great moment to see Daniel finally getting some offense for the first time in in years. Feels like a great catharsis to see this kind of happening here. Corner drop kicks, landing in that weird way where it looks like he's still trying to land on his head, it seems, but then he ends up getting laid out. Haluva kick, powerbomb into the apron. Daniel Bryan is laid out, placed on a stretcher as we fade to black. Welcome back, Daniel Bryan. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. Last week we were tied once again at weekly total wins, and just at the last time when Raw was finally catching up and on the precipice of winning for the week, which I thought it was going to do until I read the news on Tuesday morning. Again, SmackDown breaks the tie and they win for the week. Honestly, I loved the Ultimate Deletion. I might be one of the only people I know who really genuinely enjoyed watching it. But, and the Cena promo was great too. I enjoyed some of the story they were doing with the women's of Raw, the Nia and Alexa stuff, and the Sasha Bailey stuff. But honestly, nothing's going to beat the feeling of seeing Daniel Bryan get back in the ring, introducing he's coming back to in-ring action, getting some offense in, getting beat up a little bit at the end. That segment with Kevin and Sami was awesome. That was just such a great feeling. Like I said catharsis earlier. It's cathartic for the fans as well to see this finally happening. Just this kind of like relief of seeing, oh, Daniel Bryan, he's good to go again. We're going to see him wrestle again. Everything's going to be okay. Charlotte and Natalya was also a great match as well. Probably the best match of the night on Tuesday. The only thing I didn't like about SmackDown was Corbin and Dillinger just because of the fucked up ending. Anyway, yeah, SmackDown wins here. Ultimate Deletion was terrific, but nothing is going to beat the feeling of Daniel Bryan coming back for the first time in years. How cool was that? Let me know what you guys thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret for exclusive perks and bonus content. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.